When talking about how different generations contributed to the better or worse of society, like how the German population, the males, Germans, let's say how they changed the world through 1915 to 1935. Who do you hold responsible for those choices? What generation? Well, here's an interesting fact that a lot of people don't consider. They'll say it's the fault of the people from 1940, or no, the people from 1930 are at fault, or all this bullshit. You can't blame children for making decisions. They're living through this chaos. You gotta blame the adults that are 20 or older for the way its world is. You also gotta blame ourselves for not doing better to contribute to society to make it a better world. We got billions of people on this planet. If we just cared a little bit, we could have generations of just peace, food, happiness, all different types of society breakthroughs. But these breakthroughs happen when we're trying to not kill each other and selfishly gain while getting a foot on somebody. When you say I got a foot over somebody, or I got a leg on somebody, or something like that. There's many ways you can visualize it, but I always visualize it as somebody that's trying to get on like a top of a dirt hill, and I'm reaching up to get up myself and pull myself up, and they just go, thank you, and they just jump on your shoulder, put their other foot on their head, and go, thank you for the leg up, and then they kick you with their dirty feet as they jump over you. That's what I look at it as. People who are more than happy to use you as a doormat or as a rug, or get a foot on you or over you, or put a foot on your throat, just so they are somehow a little bit bettered. Either they can try to keep their fake reputation a little shinier, maybe they can hold on to a little more money, maybe somehow they get more time to drink or have fun. Maybe it could be any one thing. For me, maybe I had a habit and I needed to go get my fix before work. I've had my own hurdles I've had to go over. But one thing I try never to do is use it's your fault. I am one of those people that try to blame himself even for other people's problems. Like, for instance, my mother drugging me and me having a neurological disorder. For 25 years, I tried everything to figure out there was some way I could do something to magically cure myself of what my mother was doing. Or somehow I could magically cure my mother by doing as she was telling me to do. Or somehow this was all gonna she was gonna stop hurting me at some point, that she had some great grand plan that was working out, and I just didn't understand it yet. At 16, it was coming. This grand plan with all these doctors, she must know something that she's not telling me. One of these days, she'll tell me this grand plan, right? It's just crazy to be 10 years old wondering if your mother's ever going to be a good person, or trying to figure out what this mysterious allergy attack did to you, or speaking up about this at every doctor's office, but your parents not being concerned about it. These type of situations, I should have known that this family was fucked up, but I didn't know it was a criminal level, but I should have. I should have known that these are criminal type of actions my mother is making, and my father is just along for the ride, and my mother's doing everything in her power not to get caught. I should have known, and I was told that. I mean, she was blatant at times about it. It was almost so obvious I was stupid not to see it. It was so right in my face, but I was just with my head in the clouds, believing my mother's stories, with my head in the clouds, and it made no sense, but that's okay. That bullshit ate me up inside, trying to just believe my mother's bullshit as she blames other people, including me, for her own drinking, her own therapy, her own problems at home, her own problems with medication, like if she was popping Vicodin that wasn't hers. Any problem my mother had was somebody else's problem. If her grandson's coming to try to stop the situations from getting worse, if the son, not me, another son's coming by to try to get, not make the situation worse about your wife, none of it ever mattered because it didn't come at once. If all of it came at once, maybe. If we had from 5 years old all the way to now, all our ducks, all the shit that happened, all in a line, all on print, then it makes sense. But when you have Tim going one time, and you got Seth doing this, and then you got me doing this, and then you got this person doing this, all trying to put together this mess of your wife who's doing something to a little orphan boy, and this mess of a little orphan boy, nobody understands what the fuck could be going on with him. We just assume he's all crazy, but we know he's not stupid, but he's kind of stupid. He can't read and write. And he's also very twitchy. What's up with that? Why is the kid so twitchy all the time? All the meds. Oh, that's right. She drugs the fuck out of him, doesn't she? Yeah, too much, too much, too much over medicating. The problem with that is, yes, I was being over medicated because my mother liked to tell stories at the doctor's office, but that wasn't even the start of it. My mother liked to slip me her own medications in with the mix. She loved to kind of play doctor herself, like the person who knew best about everything medical related with pills. She had an obsession with pills, a secret obsession. She had her own little collection in the closet. And the things that my father didn't know is the little pink pills were opiates. And a lot of other weird things like my Xanax were being taken by her. And these type of things that were going on, I'm sure, affected her life. And I had nothing to do with her taking the Xanax. I was too young. All I knew was that they were an old prescription. I went in to take a couple myself. That's it. It was an older prescription. I was on Xanax still, but we had an old Dedex prescription of Xanax too. And I thought this stuff might be working, so I went to get the old ones to see if I could take a couple. And I was going to do this in the program at nighttime or in the morning, but I got caught and I never got to find out. But I did notice, and remember, I got caught. So I'm already caught, I'm in trouble, it's dead, whatever. I'm not taking the pills anymore. I'm not. That's over with. But one thing I kept to myself, and I think it was before. I think it was before I got caught, actually. Yeah, way before. Yeah, because that was way before. I watched that bottle go from a lot to halfway down without understanding what was going on. Then, I don't know, 30 days later, I'm starting to think about this one medicine and how it's affecting me, seeing as I'm still on it. Because now I'm trying to remember, trying to figure out, I must be like 13, 14. And I'm still on this Xanax stuff, and it seems maybe this stuff is helping me. I don't know, is it? Well, I'm on so many other fucking drugs, how can I know? I know. I'll tell the doctor again. Oh, wait a minute, the last time I said that, they started screwing and taking my meds away. Every time I find a med that helps me, they take it away. Well, let's see if it actually helps me. Okay, I'll take one extra and see what happens. I did that. I was much better at moving my body, and my speech was actually a little better. So then I planned on doing this again, and bad choice. Bad boy. That is a bad thing to do at 13 years old. But these medications, I'm on a lot of them that I say are making me feel funny and sick and dizzy and all these, and nobody seems to be taking me off those ones. Meanwhile, there's something else wrong with me that I'm speaking up about for now like 10 years, and nobody seems to, no, at this point, 7 years maybe, 8 years, and nobody seems to ever listen. And I'm still bumping into shit all clumsy, and I'm still having some weird feeling in my body that's causing what I'm calling at this time, at least the doctor called it at this time, a tic from medication. And it's not from medication, it's always been there. But that's just what he had to go on, was I was on a lot of meds and I was complaining of a tic. That my parents never complained of my tics, except for when the teachers were complaining about all this shit in Westford before we moved to Texas. Then it was all disappeared until about 14 years old when we're in Dr. Rosenblum and they're calling it a tic from medication. So there's been a lot of names for my twitchiness. Oh, they've all called me twitchy from back in the beginning. I was always bouncy legs, twitchy, very running around, hyper, always having horrible coordination, dropping things, falling here, bumping into this. Just, I would tell my arms and legs to do one thing, and then they would spasm out doing another. But the spasm would come from my uh, central nervous system, not my sympathetic nervous system, you would know, because that's your heart, lungs, things like that. Instead, the central nervous system, more like my spine. It's like it goes up from where my spine meets my neck, shocks out, and it's just really bad. I can try to send it, like if I try to tap my toes on my left foot, it will send an electrical discharge to my tap left foot. Doesn't feel good, but it will allow me to use sometimes like my right arm a little better. So I've learned tricks to send a shock that feels awful to my left foot by tapping my foot to allow myself to move my right arm. Or by sitting down, I can use both of my arms more efficiently. Tricks like that I've been able to figure out after 25 years. But how much has the doctors or my parents figured out? Nothing. Literally, one of my foster mothers figured out that I needed glasses with only like a week spending with me by just having me look at an eye chart. Now, she didn't keep me, she sent me back, so I never got to get tested for glasses. This this foster mother, that's the word I'm looking for, foster mother that I was seeing, heavyset, she only kept me for 7 days, but before she sent me back, she said, I think that we're going to need to bring you for glasses. And this was the day after an eye chart when she was speaking about glasses might be necessary as well. And we'll just look at the eye chart. And then I was back in the St. Anne's orphanage. But she was able to figure that out. Meanwhile, we have Leah Santa Maria thinking I need glasses and having me tested. But my mother is twisting around my brain, and I think I'm responsible for screwing that test up. Because on 3 of the exams, 2 of them that were close, they were almost looked exactly alike. I couldn't tell the difference of them. But they asked me, well, which one do you think is closer? I'm like, they look exactly the same. Well, which one is closer? And I'm like, they look exactly the same. And they kept on asking me that. So every time they did that, when I finally came to an answer and I said to myself, that one I think is closer, I would switch to the other one. But I only did that on like 3 parts of the test, but I think it might have screwed it up. And the only reason why at like 8, 9 years old, I'm not wanting, I wanted glasses, by the way. I did. I wanted glasses. That's one thing. I definitely want them because I've had other people say I need them and other kids have them and I guess it looks cool to me. But my mother also rewarded me on these exams by giving me with Wiener Schnitzel when the exams went bad, and she gave me other types of punishments when things went good. If the doctors gave me a good bill of health and said that there was very little wrong with me, my mother would be mad. If the doctor said, oh yes, I think you're right, ma'am, there's a bunch of stuff wrong with your son, when I heard those type of words, and obviously in more context, more realistic words, but you get the gist. When those type of things happen, my mother would bring me out for Wiener Schnitzel smiling. And so I was getting all the wrong messages from my mother, and it was Munchausen syndrome. My mother was trying to confuse me, and I didn't understand that. And my father wasn't there, and even if he was, he would be blind to the trick. He's blind to these little baits and switches. He thought that rattlesnakes were a great place for a child to grow up and play. I'm not talking about moving to El Paso either. I'm talking about when I lived in New Mexico. Most of the time, for hours on end every day, I used to play in an empty field of rattlesnakes and red anthills up to your knees, up to a child's knees, or no, up to an adult's knees, probably up to a child's waist. Um, but anyways, these were big New Mexican red ant hills. And this is where we played. The staff would throw a rock, sending the snakes back to their holes, and that would be it. Then we would go play. That's it. The snakes would go back in their holes and hide when cars went by and stuff like that. And if we were playing, most of the time, if you stayed away from the holes, they stayed away from you mostly. I mean, snakes, I guess, aren't really interested in stuff they can't eat. At least that's what the staff said, and they probably had anti-venom for those because they didn't seem to care about the rattlesnakes much. And we were hours and hours away from a hospital, and there was one kid that got carted off or something, but I mean, I don't know what snake bit him. He was talking about a diamond rattlesnake bit me. That's what the kid was saying. But that's all we knew that was out there. That's all we ever heard. They're all diamondbacks, but there was all different types. As me and the girl knew from our discoveries, there was a tan snake. There was the grayish tan snake. That was the diamond rattleback that had the little diamond and then the tannish and sometimes a gray tint. They and then spikier looking. But then there was some greenish snakes. There was all there. Oh, and apparently there was one we could never find that was supposed to be all different colors. But the bugs, that was where you had to be careful. There was all different types of poison. I mean, under the sink in one kid's bedroom was black widows, and there was kids playing with a black widow under a cup, and there was just black widows everywhere. We used to find them mostly in the rock walls, the bathroom, and in a kid's room. What does that tell you? What does it tell you if you find a black widow under the sink, in a rock wall in the shade, or in a kid's room, in probably a moist shoe or something? I only could hear it over everything. Probably wall. I would guess. It sounded like they were slapping it to get it on the wall, so I'm guessing. Anyways, and like I said, on an actual rock wall outside where we looked for lizards and bugs, there was an actual definite black widow with the hourglass on the back. Now, in the sink, under the sink, the weirdest thing is that it had hourglass under the belly. And the one in the room I never got to see, but the kid was saying, it had the hourglass on the back, it had the hourglass on the back. So, yeah. Apparently, the hourglass can look different shapes, too. Because there was one kid who said he found one, but we didn't see it. That was a triangle instead of an hourglass. He said he found it right outside. We didn't really believe him too much. Anyway, so when it came to that type of stuff, that's probably why the kid wanted to go back and play with one under a cup and show everybody. The staff member knew we were playing with a black widow out there too. And when I say we, I mean me and my girlfriend watched from a couple feet away while they put their lives at risk. And then when the staff member said, okay, have fun, but be careful, they jumped, we took one more step back just in case it jumped 3 feet to get us. So yeah, we were there. We were part of it. But that's five. That makes 5 kids. While an adult is like, okay, I'm going back inside, have fun. So who's at fault? The 8-year-olds or the grown adult in his 30s, African American, who's way, way muscly, well, probably 250, 280, just a ridiculously fat. He had big belly, big legs, big arm, big, tall African American guy named Toby. And he decides, okay, that's fine. Play with the Black Widow. I'm going inside. I mean, that's how much supervision. And by the way, that was our lesson plan for the day. How to play with a black widow. That was it. That was it for the whole day. That was the day. We wandered out looking for stuff. One of the kids found black widows. Me and her found crickets. And we tried to find some lizards. I don't remember catching any. We got a lot of horny toad lizards that, squirted the blood. We got some tarantulas. There was this other just basic lizard, we called them. I forget actually. We looked it up, but we just called them the basic lizard because they were the ones that were kind of everywhere. The horny toad lizards, we found two of the whole stay there. Tarantulas, we saw a bunch that were just walking around, but we found one of their burrows where I'm going to call him Bobby for now, for all purposes, got his finger bit by it because he stuck his hand in the hole. And the lesson for that day was don't stick your hand in the hole. Well, if it's a lizard, we all stick our hand in the hole. He thought it was a lizard. But see, me and my little girlfriend knew you feed it first. How do you know it's a lizard? Because you make it come out and say, hi, I'm a lizard. And then if it runs back in, you say, no, 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 come back out. Then you grab it by the tail. And if you're very gentle, he'll come back out and he won't pop off the tail. If you're not gentle, they'll lose their tail. And so we didn't really like doing that. We rather feed them, and let them just come out, kind of hang out with us as we feed them. And oh, that little girlfriend I had, she was more thrilled to rip off the legs of the grasshoppers than I was. At first, she goes, "That's gross." And I go, "No, no, we gotta feed them. Somehow we gotta throw them down. Here, let's just throw them down and see what happens." She goes, "They're jumping away." I go, "Yeah, I guess we're just gonna have to catch more." She goes, "No, no, they're gross. Let's just do this." She starts ripping off legs, throws it down. And I'm thinking, okay, that worked, but how is that any less gross than finding grasshoppers in the first place? I don't know. But, anyways, so it was rip the legs off the grasshopper, so it only has 6 legs or 2 legs or whatever, and then let the tarantula eat it. Let the red ants eat it. Let the lizard eat it. Let the frog. Oh, yeah, there was lots of toady frog things, too, if you got to the brook. That's a little far. We could never get that far. They would call us back after a while. With that much walking, that would be like 2 hours, and within an hour they do a check. They ring the bell. Okay, who's here? So they did check, but they were supposed to be looking from a window or be with us, and they were supposed to have lesson plans, and so everything was a they're supposed to, but they're not. Just like my mother and father are supposed to take responsibility during my childhood, but they didn't. And as an adult, I'm supposed to be able to go to the doctor, go to work, and use a shelter and drive. But thanks to my father's choices, I'm not able to. So these are, I mean, I can go to the doctors today. I can make the choice to walk in and go in with insurance. But see, they're tainted by other people's decisions and choices that were already made. So unless those people make new decisions to try to make a change for their old decisions, my decisions can't undo somebody else's decisions. If somebody else said or does something and they've already had that tainted, I can only speak the truth over and over and over and keep trying. Now, if that other person stops being evil and changes their ways, then most likely things will speed up and work. But it's really just like one poor man against the waves of a whole assholeness situation caused by other people. I mean, it really takes a real special type of fucking prick woman to do something like this and be this crazy to a child. And I never realized it. And she's forgiven. And I still have a little bit of love for her for the good deed she did. But the bad ones are unforgivable. They're unforgivable. And that's why it's up to God to